All right, here we go. Welcome in. Happy Tuesday to you. It's another edition of the Joe Raineri Show, brought to you by uwager.eu. It is where America bets. It's sure as hell where this show bets, and I hope at some point it is where you are at the very least line shopping, especially as we head into a couple of conference tournaments tonight. We've got some final games of the season, ACC matchups, Big Ten matchups. Purdue is in action, Florida State, Virginia Tech, Duke, Kentucky, SEC, all sorts of great games to take a look at tonight, and nobody better to take a look at those games, get some words of advice, some betting advice, learn how to make it a bit of a profitable March here as we head into all the tournaments. That would be Ralph Michaels, wagertalk.com. Can't wait to talk to him. Always exciting when we've got him on the show on Tuesdays. And just as profitable is making sure that you are getting the best numbers tonight when you go out and you place your bets. It's all about shopping the numbers, guys, right? We're not betting teams, we're betting numbers, which only makes sense, right? So why not get the best number you can? Why go ahead and have to lay 4.5 if you can lay 4? Why lay 7 or if you can get, 6.5? And, if you can get 8 instead of 6, why not go and get it? But the problem is, you've got to have an offshore book that you can count on, which is why we tell you guys about uwager.eu. Write the number down. Call them up. You don't have to fund the account with $1 million. All you got to do is open the account. So this way, you are ready to go. You can line shop, and you can have peace of mind that you've got the best number out there. 1-800-UWAGER. The code JRS50. Get yourself set up with an account. They'll drop an extra 50% deposit sign-up bonus right in there, right now. Don't wait. Customer service, second to none. I'm telling you, and I know you guys that have gone out there, you have reached out to me, you've DM'd me, you've told me your experience is the same as my experience has been. Unbelievable customer service, very easy to drop money in, even easier to be able to pull money out, but more importantly, having the ability to be able to shop those lines and make sure that you've got the best line possible that you are doing. And in some cases, UWager is going to be the best price on the board. And you know what? Now you can bet it with peace of mind knowing that you've got the best number. So call them up, set it up. 1-800-UWager. That's 1-800-UWager. Give them the code JRS50. Get that 50% sign-up deposit match there and get going here because we are loaded. Not only NBA, college hoops tonight, tournament action, Horizon. We've got all sorts of ways to profit here, and we're excited, including with our friends TrendyBets.com. We'll go ahead. They've got to play not only in the NBA, but college hoops. We're going to pass that along to you. Also, hope that you're making us a part of your day on the Fantasy Sports Radio Network. If you want to be profitable, not only in sports betting, but also in the DFS world, season-long fantasy world. If you are a fantasy player, there is no better app to have on your phone than the FNTSY Sports Radio app. It's a free app. It's a free download. Get it on your Google Play Store. Get it at the iTunes Store. Download it. You got me and Dane Martinez from 6 to 9 in the morning Eastern Standard Time getting your day started. You got Gabriel Morency, just a fellow degenerate. We love Gabe. Gabe and me got you in the morning after from 9 to 12. So essentially, you've got me overseeing your 6A to 12P Eastern Standard Time every morning, everything that you need to know about what's happening in the world of sports, plus the latest sports betting information in one place. It is the Fantasy Sports Radio Network, not to mention the guys. We are talking about the guys that have won the $1 million tournaments on daily fantasy. The guys at Roto World, there is nobody better. This is definitely an app you want to have on your phone. You want to take us with you. You want to tune in. Great live programming from 6A to 11P at night. If you want to profit, not only in the sports arena, the sports investing arena, but also the daily fantasy arena, that's the app to download. It is the Fantasy Sports Radio app. Make it rain with us in the morning, and then, of course, the morning after from 9 to 12. So we are pumped. We are excited. Let's get to Ralph Michaels here from WagerTalk.com. At first, I want to thank our good friends at Miami Acura, of course, for supporting us here on the show, and want to pass along their information and tell you that if you or somebody you know is in the market for a new or used or even certified pre-owned car, why don't you go ahead, check them out at MiamiAcura.com, including the all-new 2019 RDX. Damn car drives itself. But maybe the best part about the 2019 RDX is the price. Guys, right now, prices are unmatched. Just heard from somebody last week, in fact, that did exactly what they were shopping for a car, weren't getting a new car, but they had gone to 2 or 3 other dealers, had found a car that they like in the used lot, and before they did it, they went over, stopped by to see exactly what Miami Acura could do, what they had on the lot, and they told me the price that they got at Miami Acura for pretty much the same car wasn't even in the same ballpark. They stayed, they bought it, they got their new car from Miami Acura, and they could not be happier, and I'm glad, because that's what it's all about. We talk about shopping the best number in the sports investing world. Well, you don't want to overpay if you don't have to. You've got choices. Make sure that MiamiAcura.com is definitely a choice that you make. Don't go get that new or certified pre-owned car without visiting MiamiAcura.com. All right, TrendyBets.com, their free NBA play coming up here in about 20 minutes. But first, hey, guys, welcome in. Exciting, of course. Tuesday means we get a chance to talk to our good friend Ralph Michaels, WagerTalk.com, and what a deal he's got going on right now for you guys at WagerTalk. If you want to start profiting, end of the year, tournament time here is just around the corner. We'll give you an opportunity to do that. But, Ralph, tonight in college hoops, interesting. One of my all-time favorite tournaments here, just because there's always chaos, is the Horizon League tournament. And it's one of those situations where we got a bunch of teams where hardly the top seeds ever win this. So you've always got a chance from a future standpoint of making a few bucks with this actual tournament. Talk to me about the Horizon League tournament here starting tonight, and what do you like about it?
Well, the funny thing about the Horizon is it gives the top teams a significant edge because they host games the first 2 days, then they're off 3 days, and then they move to Detroit for their final 2 games. So the home teams, you have a home court edge Tuesday, Wednesday, and then the neutral setting on next Monday and Tuesday. One of the games, we'll just break out. One of the situational games I was going to talk about is the Horizon tonight, and it's Green Bay against Illinois Chicago. And one of the things people talk about, and we'll mention it a little later, is it's tough to beat a team 3 times. And Green Bay has beaten Illinois Chicago each of the first 2 times this year. Now, I am on the Green Bay side, even though they won those first 2 games. Number one, we'll talk about a third time as basically a 50-50 proposition. But in those first 2 games, Green Bay was actually down. They were down by 10 at home. In the second matchup, they were down by 18 at the halftime. So even though this Green Bay team has beaten Illinois Chicago twice, it's not like they're saying we had 2 easy games. They're saying we were down by double digits in each of those games. You also have a Green Bay squad that finished the season 5-1 straight up in ATS at home. And they are off a loss their previous game. So their final game in the regular season was at home. It was against the top team in the league, Northern Kentucky. So I consider that a good loss. Finally, Illinois Chicago is now playing a 3rd straight road game. They finished the regular season on the road Thursday, on the road Saturday. They leave Saturday not sure where they're going to play, and then a quick turnaround, and all of a sudden they've got to schedule this game and play on the road Tuesday at a Phoenix team that is the number 7 tempo in the country. They're one of the quickest paced teams. 3rd game in 6 days with that tempo, all on the road. I am on Green Bay.
Ralph, some guys that I have talked to, they sometimes maybe get too enamored with some of these tournaments like the Horizon, like the Patriot League, with some of the one-loss records. But other guys I've talked to, they throw out the one-loss record because they just keep beating each other up all year long, and they spend more time looking at point differential, at least winning point differential. Do you have one side or the other that you spend time looking on when it comes to handicapping these types of tournaments?
Well, obviously, in the Wager Talk College basketball guide that I do, I did the guide because those are the things I want to see. And finding conference-only stats in college basketball is not easy. But those are two of my categories. I have a conference-only record, a point per game in conference-only play, rebounding per game diff, and turnover per game diff. So, while the records are important, yes, because the team's got to be able to beat the other team, there's some interesting cases with point per game diffs that it shows you how close they are. One example I'll bring up to you is the Missouri Valley. The best team in the Missouri Valley is Loyola of Illinois, Loyola Chicago, at plus 3.9 points per game. That's it.
Wow.
Your best team in your conference in conference play is only plus 3.9 points per game. Evansville is the worst team at 5-11. If you take Evansville out, Indiana State's -4. But even top to bottom in that league, you only have an 8-point difference per game from the best to the worst team. Those are the kind of teams where you have to look who's hot recently, who shoots better on the road compared to at home. There's some strong home court edges. There's smaller gyms, so you don't have those wide open situations. And basically look how they played against these other in those matchups. So, record's important, yes, but when you say there's a conference, the Atlantic Sun played last night, just to give you one more example, and the number 3 team in the conference was Florida Gulf Coast, a team people are familiar with. They've been to the tournament. The number 7 team in the tournament, Florida Gulf Coast, is 9-7 record. They were plus 0.8 points per game in conference play. Jacksonville was 5-11 in conference play. They were minus 0.9. So 1.7 point difference between a 9-7 team and a 5-11 team.
Wow.
And if you compare those two teams and you say these two teams are facing on a neutral court, you would probably think North Florida should be about a 10-point favorite. You look at the rebounding per game and the points per game diff, you realize that Jacksonville lost a lot of close games that they were very close to winning, while Florida Gulf Coast won many close games, and therefore the small point per game margin difference.
Yep. So the details are in the finer points when you start looking at that, because the win-loss records are not everything. Sometimes you got to dive a little bit deeper to get a true picture of what's going on. Ralph Michaels joining us at WagerTalk.com, and also if you didn't get a chance to see us last week, Ralph had offered up an amazing deal right now for the rest of the college basketball season at Wager Talk, including all the conference games, whatever's left this week, including tonight, an opportunity to get everything right through the Final Four championship game for $169. Now, Ralph, is that still in play for us?
Joe, it is, and basically I did this. My price, Selection Sunday, is St. Patty's Day. So on Monday, my March Madness package starts with any NIT games that may be that Monday, March the 18th. My price is going to be $169 on Monday, March the 18th. So by signing up now, you are basically getting the rest of the regular season for free and all the conference tournaments for free. And let's just jump into something that we need to talk about here for our listeners. I think conference tournament time, there's much more value than March Madness. March Madness, you have 68 teams, you're down to 64 teams, half of them are done after 2 days, and they're playing with rest with no hidden value. If a player gets tweaked on the Duke team on a Thursday game, the world is going to know about it on Saturday when they play again. Same with any team in the tournament. But when you're playing these 4 games in 4 days, or sometimes 5 games in 5 days, and you have games going from noon until midnight, and then the next day they line up and you may be playing 18 hours later, there's a lot of value that slips by there. Teams that had a player banged up, teams that needed to play their starters extraordinary amount of minutes because it was a close game, teams that went into overtime, teams that had an outlier performance shooting 70% from three-pointers, or the opposite, shooting 20% from three-pointers, happen to win the game. Those are the adjustments you need to make. And with the day-to-day lineups, Vegas can't catch all that value. They're putting a lineup based on what the power ratings are. You can find a lot of value day to day with these tournaments, and now's the time you really should be on. I think it's the best value in all sports the next 2 weeks.
Which is why you need to have a guy like Ralph Michaels in your corner, getting the work done for you. WagerTalk.com. Search him out. Cal's Sports page. It is right there for you. $169. Get all the conference play through the tournament as well for just $169. Plenty of action, plenty of time for you guys to be profitable. Now, Ralph, I've got to ask you, we have talked about this team, and I don't know if this is going to be part of the situationals or technicals that you bring to the table with us every week. But here we go again, certainly in my neck of the woods, the damn Pittsburgh Panthers, who have not won on the road. We've talked about it in, 2 years now, and we find them on the road here in Miami, taking on, not a great University of Miami team at all this year. And I don't know, Ralph, is this one of those situations where you just, until they win, you keep fading them, or is there a better angle to look at here for Pittsburgh against the University of Miami tonight?
Well, I could not bet Pittsburgh, let alone. This was a team that early on beat Louisville at home and beat Florida State at home, and they were sitting 12-5. Yeah. Well, they are now 12-17, so that means they've lost their last 12 games. They've also lost, I think it's now 23 straight road games. Yeah, 23 straight road games they have yet to win. So learning to win on the road is tough. It's even tougher to learn how to cover on the road. They're a team that even if they win a few road games, that I wouldn't back them next year until they prove to me they can win and cover on the road. And I look at Miami, and Miami certainly hasn't been a good team. I mean, they were 9-7 after beating Wake Forest back on January 12th. Now they sit 12-6, so they're 3-9 in that stretch. But I look at their last 8 games, and the home team has won all 8 games. They lost on the road to Virginia, North Carolina, Boston College, Wake Forest, and Duke. Yeah, Boston College and Wake Forest are bad losses, but they're still road losses. Their last 3 home games, Georgia Tech, Clemson, and Notre Dame, all straight-up wins by 15, by 1, and by 15. So to me, the line is short. I had Miami in my mix to do it, but I just couldn't trust them as a favorite, laying this number. I think they win. I think they cover. They weren't strong enough to be one of my top plays of the day, but they've proven to me they can win at home. You have a team that, at 12-6 is playing out the string, but you also have a team that, has averaged 23 or 24 wins the last 4 years, has that coach that's going to demand they play hard. So for that reason, I would have to back the Hurricanes tonight.
You mentioned road wins, and I'm wondering how much importance do you put on road records once we get to conference time? Because let's face it, a lot of these, the tournaments and the 4 brackets here, they're going to be all over the place away from home. How much do road records mean to you when handicapping the tournament?
Well, I look at away records, not as much for dogs. When I have a team that's close to pick 'em or a favorite, I make sure that they have the ability to win on the road. Now, a road game is different than a neutral game, especially when you're playing in the ACC. There's such a difference from top to bottom. Right. But more importantly than looking at the record, I look at how a team shoots on the road compared to at home. And that's my main statement. If they're a team that can score and play decent numbers, I don't expect their numbers, their shooting percentages, to be good as they are at home. But as long as there's not a dynamic difference where it's 48% at home and only 41% on the road. So, number one, if I have a pick'em or a favorite, I have to make sure that they won at least, let's say, 25 or 30% of their road games. And then when I'm looking at dogs or small favorites, I want to make sure they have the ability to score some points on the road by looking at what their shooting percentage was away from home.
Ralph Michaels, WagerTalk.com. Get to WagerTalk.com today, guys. 169. The rest of the season, all the conference tournaments through the national championship. You can get Ralph, get all his selections, just 169, guys. What you want to talk about value? We're always searching for value. That's value. Why Ralph? While you guys are out doing your thing, Ralph is in as much TNA as humanly possible, and I'm talking about trends and angles. There's nobody better than Ralph Michaels. Get to WagerTalk.com for just $169. Secure your place today. And I'll throw another team out you, Ralph, ACC, with some local ties here. Florida State, we talked about just over the last couple of weeks. What a record. They rattled off 7 or 8 wins in a row. A lot of people felt they turned a corner, and yet you were the only guy going into the North Carolina game that said, whoa, whoa, whoa. It's one thing to beat 7 or 8, lesser team competitions. It's a nice, but North Carolina is not everybody else. And sure enough, they get waxed by North Carolina. They'd find themselves at home tonight against Virginia Tech. Virginia Tech getting 3.5. What do you think about Florida State? Are you still on that kick that, you know what, they're good, but I just don't know how good they are?
Well, even now you're looking at their strength of schedule was 43. That's year to date. So, having played an ACC schedule, that's not one of the top schedules in the league. But I also look at them, and they've taken care of business at Tallahassee. They come in 23-6. They were sitting 13-5. This is a team that lost to Pittsburgh and Boston College back-to-back games back in mid-January and was sitting 13-5. Since that run, they reeled off and won every game except for that North Carolina game. But what impresses me, and the reason I would have to back Florida State, is you look at their body of work. Their losses this year to Villanova, neutral, in a neutral setting. Villanova, not as good as last year, but they're in first in their division. They lost to Virginia on the road, a number 1 seed. They lost to Duke at home, a number 1 seed. They lost to North Carolina on the road, a number 2 seed. So you have those 2 bad losses, and that's it. But you only have 1 home loss the entire year, and that's to Duke. And you only lost that game by 2 points. Virginia Tech is a team that I love. They play slow tempo, but slow tempo gives you fewer shot opportunities. So when you're on the road like they are, this is the team that lost at Clemson. This is the team that just a couple games ago went to Notre Dame, won by 8, went to Pittsburgh, won by 6. They have not proven to me they can get margin away from home. So with that scenario, with them coming off a Duke upset, so you have a team that is off a Duke upset. This has to be a letdown spot for them, and I would back Florida State.
Love that. Ralph Michaels, WagerTalk.com. One more game before we dive into some of your trends and your angles, your situationals, your technicals here, Ralph, because this Rhode Island team cost me an awful lot of money against Dayton there last week, and they are on the road at St. Joe's. And I just don't know what the hell to make of them. I really, really don't. Every time I think this team is just stick a fork in them, they end up doing something like they did last week against Davidson. But St. Joe's, they've won consecutive games for the first time, I think, since December recently. I don't know what to make of them either. What do you make of Rhode Island St. Joe's? St. Joe's laying 1.5 tonight.
Well, we made quite a bit of money playing against Rhode Island in the stretch there. And, I don't remember seeing a 5-game stretch. They played Davidson, Dayton, Fordham, VCU, and Davidson. And they shot 34, 30, 33, 30, and 38%.
Crazy.
So what do? They all of a sudden play a George Washington team at home. They shoot 54%, and then they go to one of the best teams in the A-10, Dayton, and they shoot 49% against Dayton. I don't know what to make of this Rhode Island team either. There's just sometimes that a team all of a sudden pops up, plays a couple good games that are that good, and the one good game I played against them, against George Washington, I didn't play him. George Washington was a team that was struggling. Rhode Island was at home. They were off an outlier game in my mind. They had their best offensive performance, allowing 54%. They had their best defensive performance, allowing 39%. I figured it was an outlier. I had Dayton as one of my top plays that Friday, and Rhode Island wins that game outright. So Now that they put back-to-back games together, it's just a team I will lay off of. I'm not on them to play because they've only had 2 good games, but after burning me once in a situation that I thought was very, very favorable, it's a game that I will just pass. And there's times during a season, you see 2 or 3 teams and you may have a wrong read on a team, then it really is just best to pass and don't try to figure, okay, I read this team wrong this time, I read this team wrong this time. Well, the third time I can't be wrong again, right? Well, sure you can be wrong. So, it's a game that St. Joe's, you know why they've been bad. They just had a lot of injuries. They were a team that I had circled that I thought was going to be very good, and they've been so mangled with injuries this year that they're just getting through the season, and we'll see what happens. So, between that with St. Joe's and not having a feel for Rhode Island since they're back-to-back solid performances, it's just a pass for me.
What about Nevada? Oh, let's face it, Nevada. I'm sorry, corrected myself, Ralph. That's the kind of influence you've had on me. Nevada. The court gets stormed the other night against Utah State, right? There's this whole big kerfuffle in the back with security and fans and this and that. Seemed to be very bent out of shape. Tonight, on the road, Air Force getting 13.5. Is this one of those bounce-back trends and angles situations where you expect them to come out on fire? Because 13.5 on the road is a pretty big number, isn't it?
It is, especially Air Force has played very well. I mean, Air Force has gone 8-5 their last 13 games, including beating Fresno State on the road, and beating Boise at home and San Diego State at home. So they're a very tough team at home. It's a game that I'm just going to enjoy and watch. I want to see how Nevada comes out of it. You saw how fired up they were. One thing I will tell you is this. There's been several situations where things like this have happened off the court or at the end of the game. This is handicapping 101. You remember those games, you circle those games. Those players remember, those coaches remember. When they play Utah State again, you are going to see the biggest effort from Nevada you will ever see. Wow. I think that is a situation that I will mark down for next year no matter what happens. Now, I've got an angle for you here.
Sure.
This isn't the technical play of the day, but it was just something I looked up and found it pretty amazing. The database goes back to 2002, so only 9 times has this occurred in the last 16 years. A team has 26 or more wins and they're off a loss, and now they're an away favorite.
Okay.
So, your guess: very good or very bad?
I would think very good, no?
Yeah, well, those teams that had 26 or more wins are off a loss, and they don't have very many losses to be at 26 wins.
Right.
And now they're an away favorite, a perfect 9-0
wow.
with a very impressive average cover of 8.5 points per game. We've talked about angles in the past, and angles can be very different. You have a 9-0 angle that is almost covering by double digits. That means that situation has been very profitable. If you have a 6-1 or a 7-1 angle where the average cover margin is 2.2 points per game, you need to be very careful because in that same situation, you are one basket away from being 500 or even 1-7. So when you have angles, you have to not only look at what the angle record is, you have to look at what the average cover is to know how much strength or emphasis to put on that situation.
Great stuff. Ralph Michaels, wagertalk.com. Make sure you get there. 169 for the rest of the college basketball season, including through the national championship. And, Ralph, I'm wondering, do you dive into the NIT when it goes on or stuff, or is there just not enough time to be able to handicap that many teams?
Oh, I'll have more plays in the NIT, CIT, and CBI than I will the NCAA tournament.
I love it.
Absolutely.
Okay.
Because in the NCAA tournament, everyone is happy to be there. Ooh. Not so in the NIT. Wow. There are many teams that get shied, and that carries over. There are many teams that were close and know they're making you have many times where the NIT looks at the seedings, and then you have to be able to sell or you have to be able to give a commitment to have this many people here, and if not, you can actually lose money. So you have times where you have a little brother finally getting to host one of the big brothers, an in-state rival or maybe a next state rival. Great situations in the NIT where you can't find those in the NCAA tournament, because everyone's happy to be in the NCAA tournament. Everyone gives their full effort. Not the same true in the NIT.
Love that. See, and you get all of that, guys. 169 for the rest of the year. You'll get all of Ralph plays. You'll have him working for you. Take advantage. Get the wagertalk.com right now. 169. Put it in the card. Add it to the cart. Pay for it. Get it going. Get on the alerts, including everything tonight, the rest of this week. Do it now. At Cal Sports LV is his Twitter page. Also, Wager Talk. Look at the Cal Sports handicapping page. And Ralph, you always bring some sort of situational technical play over the next couple of days with some of the games. What do you got tonight that you're looking at, or over the next couple of days?
Well, before we get to that, let's just talk about a situation that you are going to hear 500 times in the next 2 weeks. It's very difficult to beat a team a third time in the season.
Okay.
Well, how often do you hear that? When we get to these conference tournaments, you have teams that swept someone, and you're going to hear announcers say it, it's difficult to beat a team a third time. Well, since 2002, there have been 1,280 occurrences where teams have beaten someone twice and is facing each other a third time.
Damn.
It's 50.7% for the team that won the first two. They win more, but it's 50.7%. Wow. Since 2015, the team that beat the other team twice is 177 and 176 against the spread, 50.1%. So don't let it affect your handicapping one way or the other. Is it worse when you have multiple years? Well, I looked at a team. What happens when a team beat another team 4 straight times?
Yeah.
So you either play them once a year and you beat them 4 straight years, or you play them twice a year and you swept 2 straight years? Well, that favorite is 48.7%. So again, basically 50%. So don't let that affect your handicapping. One thing I want to bring up for next week, or when we get into handicapping conference tournaments in the next few days, teams with no rest that are a double-digit favorite. The first day of the tournaments, you have a 1 seed against an 8 seed, and you'll often have a double-digit favorite. But when you're playing the second day or third day or fourth day, and you're a double-digit favorite, that doesn't nearly occur as much. In fact, in that same time span since 2002, those teams are only 23 and 31, 21 and 26, 44.7%. So betting on a big favorite early, not good, not bad. Betting on a double-digit favorite after the first day of the tournament, when they're not playing the worst team in the tournament, has been a negative, 44%. And why? Well, unless it's the finals, you've played a day, you're now a double-digit favorite, you have to play again tomorrow, you're not going to exert the energy. A win is a win. You don't care if it's a 10-point win or a 5-point win. You have to have your guys ready for the next day as well, so you don't run up the score. So anytime you can find that situation, double-digit dogs after the first day is very successful.
Love that.
And the last thing when you're doing conference tournaments, the ugly teams. Those teams that have a win percentage of 20% or less.
Wow.
So you have to be 2 and 24. You have to be 3 and 25. A 20% win margin. If that team lost its last game at home against this foe, and now they're a double-digit team away from home, they are 225 and 148.
Damn.
60.3%. Betting on a team that won less than 20% of its games up to that time. And again, the same scenario. You have a team that knows it's got to play the next day. You have a team that all they have to play for is this one game that won 20%. And again, teams know they rest their starters, they pull out, they try different guys that have to get through the next 4 or 5 days. So again, just another situation to look at. Don't automatically assume a team's only won 2 or 3 games the regular season. They can't compete with this team. Not true at all when it's all or nothing for one team, and the other team is probably the favorite to play this worst team or the 1 seed, where their goals are to play 4 games in the next 4 days to get to the finals and win their conference tournament.
And that could very well happen a few times here over the next week or so, can it, Ralph?
Oh, absolutely. Yeah, there's going to be, you're going to have, you're probably going to have San Jose in the Mountain West. Mm-hmm. I'm thinking the bottom of the rung. You have Chicago State in the WAC, New Hampshire, San Jose, Tulane, Idaho, Maine. Those are your teams that are in that 20% range that, if you find that situation, don't be afraid to back those ugly teams.
Don't be afraid to get to wagertalk.com. Secure your place right now with Ralph throughout the entire tournament, every tournament really for that matter, including right up through the national championship. That's with Ralph at wagertalk.com. Just $169, guys, and I can assure you, you will make your money back almost immediately as it's getting along there. $169, go in there, secure it, get all of this week's, get every game that Ralph has from now through the national championship, including the NIT, which it sounds like Ralph's got a whole lot of great angles and is excited about that due to the fact that motivation, which is always a big factor, Ralph. Sounds like that the motivation there for the NIT, we might see some effort you'd otherwise not see, which means there's probably some value to be had in those tournaments as well.
Absolutely. And for tonight on Tuesday, I pulled out just a simple technical play, and it's just one team playing well against another team playing poorly. Nothing fancy about it, but when you have a team like Central Michigan who's 9-2 ATS their last 11 games, they're a small home favorite against Northern Illinois, who's 1-7 ATS. You also have a situation where Northern Illinois just played their final home game, their senior night, and now they're on the road for the last 2 games. So, while angles are something I don't base a play on, when you break them down into their basics, you really are just saying Central Michigan has exceeded the Vegas expectations. Northern Illinois has fallen short of their expectations. So you have a hot team versus a cold team. So again, it's just a simple technical play. Central Michigan, 9-2 ATS, Northern Illinois, 1-7. 2 situationals, not big situations, but just stuff I wanted to talk about to bring it up to guys. You have VCU playing at George Mason. For those that haven't followed VCU, their defense is back to the Shaka Smart days when they were making their NCAA runs. They're going for their first clinched title tonight since 2009. They're going for their 10th straight win. They're going for their 5th straight road win. And when you look at George Mason, they've played 9 teams this year with defenses that rank in the top 103 as far as efficiency goes. Well, Virginia Tech is clearly in the top 103, and George Mason is 0-9 in those games when facing a top 103 defense. So the VCU defense right now, as far as efficiency goes in the country, number 7 in the country. Damn. So they are an elite team. And then finally for tonight, we talked about Green Bay. I just want to remind people, Green Bay against Illinois Chicago. Yes, it's the 3rd straight time they've played, but again, having been down in those games, I think is a situation that Green Bay knows they have to come out hard. And playing those 3 games in 6 nights against a team that's one of the fastest in the country, I think the Phoenix get it done to move on in what you said, the Horizon, a fun league. The last time Green Bay won the league, they were a 4 seed. They're the 4 seed again, and they think there's some karma around them this year. And that's a funny thing when when teams get a feel like that and are playing well down the stretch and can relate it to something that they've done before, they know they can be the 4 seed and come out and win, like you said, and have the favorite not win again for another year. Two things move for the last 2 plays. Wednesday, a technical play for Wednesday, and it's a totals play. Arkansas is playing that full court defense again, and it's led to going 5 overs and 16 unders in the last 21 games. Vanderbilt had some injuries early. They've been a train wreck down the stretch. 8 straight unders for Vanderbilt. So the technical situation for Wednesday is Arkansas and Vanderbilt under the total. And the last thing I want to mention here on this show, just another thing for our listeners to think about. So I went ahead to Thursday for our situational play, and the situational play is on Cal Irvine. You're looking at a spot here where Cal Irvine in the Big West is 13-1. The next best team is 10-5. There's nothing else they can do. They have absolutely no need to win this game. They're playing a very bad Cal Poly team. They're going to be laying double digits on the road. This is their 3rd straight road game. They have their senior night still on deck in 2 days. They play Thursday and then Saturday. So you want to have a big effort for your seniors on senior night, your final home game. And then you look at what Cal Poly's done. Yes, they've been a bad road team, and they're only 6-21 on the year. But their last 3 road games, they knocked off Hawaii. They took Long Beach State to overtime, and they were in the game the entire game against UC Davis, and they ended up losing by 10. So just because you have the best against the worst, if it's the regular season, the team has nothing else to play for. A loss doesn't hurt them one bit. It doesn't change their seeding, and it gets them ready and perhaps more rested for their game on Saturday and then moving forward. So again, just something else to look at. Things change later in the year. Teams that have to win or teams that don't need to win, you don't want to put too much emphasis on those.
Want to ask you too, Ralph, real quick, and make sure you guys head over to wagertalk.com. Make sure you're following Ralph and tailing him on Twitter at CalSportsLV. You mentioned VCU, and you mentioned from a defensive standpoint, they really are harking back to the days of Shaka Smart. Unfortunately, it's not necessarily translating to what's going on at Texas right now, but it also seems like VCU, for some reason, comes out of the gate and just overwhelms team because, I could be crazy, but it seems like they're covering the first half an awful lot, VCU. They seem to be covering quite rather easily in the first half of games. Is that because of their defense, that they're just overwhelming their opponents a lot of times, and they're finding it rather easy to go into the second half with a lead and the cover?
Well, Mike Rhodes hasn't really, people aren't familiar with Mike Rhodes yet. He went to Rice in 2015, his first head coaching job, went 12-20 in 2015, went 12-20 again in 2016, and got Rice to 23 wins. He took over this VCU team, went 18-5 his first year, and his second year is when you start seeing the improvement. He has these guys on an incredible track regiment during the off season.
Wow.
They run track. They run with the track team. They may not be part of the track team, but he just does conditioning, and he wants to outrun a team, and he starts outrushing that team from the opening tip. It's a great astute point by you, and that is the style he wants to play, that his guys are more physically ready. They have more stamina, and that's why they can withstand anyone rushing on them late. They've had a couple close losses, couple close wins here, but they always have more energy at the beginning of the game, and they always have more energy at the end of the game than their opponents.
Laying 2.5 in the first half tonight for you guys there. VCU taking on George Mason. Just something to keep in mind. But like you said, there's Ralph understanding the guy's got these dudes in a track meet here, but how many of you guys would have known that? And the answer is probably very few, because you've got other things going on. Ralph's got no life. His life is exactly this. His life is to make you profitable. He's to make himself profitable. His is to find the edge. That's an edge. That is the kind of stuff that you will have going into the tournament for just $169, guys. Get the rest of the season. Get everything, all the tournament plays that Ralph sees, all the angles he's got there. You get it for $169. Go to wagertalk.com right now. Secure it. Put it in the cart. Check out. And get ready to have one hell of a next, 3 to 4 weeks here. It's going to be fun. Ralph, always a pleasure, my friend. Thank you very much for taking the time to join us today, and we will talk to you again next week.
Joe, my friend, thank you. Appreciate it, bud. And, next Tuesday, if it works on your schedule, with the conference tournament starting, everyone in conference tournaments Thursday, if you want to do a second show on Thursday, I'm happy to do that, maybe to give some people some conference tournament games in tournament for that night or for the next morning.
That would be awesome. Get ready next week. We'll get you guys all set. Ralph Michaels, wagertalk.com. Ralph, thanks, my man. We'll talk to you next week.
Thanks, Joe.
That's what I'm talking about. I want to thank Ralph Michaels very much. WagerTalk.com. You guys need to get there. Take advantage of the rest of the season, including every tournament from now until the national championship, including the NIT. Take advantage for $169 a month. Get $169 for just $169 for the rest of the year, including all of those tournament games. WagerTalk.com. Go to the Cal Sports page. Get Ralph working for you. Want to thank him very much there. Just a plethora of information, great handicapping advice, stuff to keep an eye out for, his trends, his angles. Ralph is one of a kind. Love that when he brings that to the table each and every Tuesday. Next week, we'll get you Tuesday and Thursday as we get ready for most of the tournaments to kick off. Plenty of opportunities to be profitable here. And the best way to do it is, of course, to make you a smarter sports investor. And how do you do that? Well, I introduce you to guys like Ralph Michaels. I let you hear from him so you can hear yourself. Not that, it's just it's a bunch of words on a website somewhere or on a post, but you actually get to hear from guys like Ralph, and you get to understand where they're coming from, why they're picking what they're picking, how they go ahead and break it down, so you have a better understanding yourself of why decisions are being made. And we say this all the time on the show. If you want to call bullshit and shenanigans on somebody really quick, then anybody that ever tells you to play a certain side, okay, somebody says, all right, take Mississippi tonight, or take Kentucky, and when you go, okay, why, what's the edge, and they go, then you know they don't have an edge. And that's the whole point of what we do here on the show, is not only deliver the information to you and give you an idea of who these guys like, but why they like them, because it doesn't do you any good or anybody else any good here if you don't understand where the edge is, why the edge is, and how they're coming about to saying, hey, this is the team. Green Bay tonight, this is the team that you should have. This is the team I'm going to have. You got to be able to explain why. There's got to be an edge. Otherwise, you're throwing shit against the wall and hoping it sticks, and that doesn't make anybody any money in the long run. Anybody can get lucky and win a few games in 10 days or 3 days or over 11 games. I'm 90%. Tell me what you are after 9,000 plays. Tell me what you are after 5 years. Those are the kinds of things that we are looking for, transparency. And that's what you get with Ralph Michaels. That's also what you get with our friends from TrendyBets.com, which those of you who have been following the show and those of you that have been tailing Trendy Bets, then you know what they have done, not only this NBA season, but what they've been doing this college hoop season, too. They've been absolutely killing it. They've been giving us free plays on this show that have been hitting at over a 62% clip since the beginning of time, since the beginning of season. These guys have delivered. They've got another play for you tonight, not only in the NBA, but also in college hoops. We want to get to that. Also want to remind you guys, I hope you are line shopping. Those of you that are just joining us, we do this every show because I feel like it's my civic duty to be able to tell people, because I keep hearing horror stories from folks about, damn it, I got killed from the hook. I had it at 3, it was 3.5, and I shouldn't have laid that. And when I ask, well, why did you line shop? Because that number has probably been out there. The answer is, I only have one book, so it's not like I can line shop, and that's a ridiculous excuse, because you can absolutely get yourself signed up with an offshore book who is going to, at the very least, give you an opportunity to be able to shop the lines that you have in your normal book. And the one that we recommend, and we've always recommended, is uwager.eu. Why? It's because I house my money there as well. I've got 5 or 6 different accounts with books in the offshore, and the reason why is I want to be able to shop. I want to be able to get myself the best number, and I love the guys at UWager because A, the best customer service there is, and B, it's so easy to be able to put money in and pull money out, which is very important. And the lines also very competitive, the numbers very competitive, but you've got to be able to have the opportunity, and you've got to have at your disposal the ability to do the shopping for the best number. How do you do that? You call 1-800-UWager right now. 1-800-UWager. You give them the code JRS50. They will go ahead and drop a 50% deposit sign-up bonus right in your account right now. It doesn't have to be $1 million. You just got to be able to set the account up with something, so when you are line shopping and you see the better number is at UWager, boom, you can deliver it. So don't be one of these guys that goes, oh, man, I only got one book, and I got to drive to West Virginia, and no, there's no excuse not to have a solid book in offshore that will afford you the opportunity to line shop, and that is UWager right now. 1-800-UWager. Give them the code JRS50. All right, let's check in with our friends at TrendyBets.com. They've got themselves a free play tonight. They are looking at Portland and Memphis. Portland, Memphis, Trailblazers, Grizzlies. Portland laying 5. Total is 215.5. Here's what we know from Trendy Bets. The under, 13-6-1 in Portland's last 20 versus a team with a losing straight-up record. They're also under 5-1 in Memphis's last 6 versus a team with a winning percentage above 600. The under, 19-8 in the Grizzlies' last 27 games following a straight-up loss. And finally, the under, 4-1 in the last 5 meetings in Memphis. Your TrendyBets.com free NBA play tonight. The under, 215.5. That's under 215.5 tonight in the Portland and Memphis game. Also, let me just make sure we got this. Let's take a look at their college game. Their college game tonight, Kansas at Oklahoma, Big 12 on the line. Kansas laying 1. Total is 142.5. Here's what we know. The Jayhawks 3-9 against the number in their last 12, following a straight-up win. Also, Jayhawks 1-6 against the number in their last 7 road games. The Sooners 18-8-3 against the number in their last 29 games overall. And finally, the Jayhawks 1-4 against the number in their last 5 meetings together against Oklahoma. Your TrendyBets.com college free play of the day. Get the point, get the one. Oklahoma at home to get the job done. And those are your TrendyBets.com free plays of the day. And, of course, we encourage you guys, get over to TrendyBets.com. Check them out. Packages are available, very affordable, and better yet, 50% off. In the NBA, NBA 50 is your code. That's NBA 50 in college hoops. Take advantage of what they have been doing all season long, and it's very simple. NCAAB 50. NCAAB 50 will get you 50% off any one of the premium packages in college hoops. So, whole bunch of information there. Hope you guys enjoyed it. Let's make it a profitable Tuesday. Want to thank Ralph Michaels, wagertalk.com once again. Trendy Bets. Also, guys, want to remind you, go ahead, download the Fantasy Sports Radio Network app on your phone. Take us with you as we've got you covered. Everything in the world of DFS, not to mention sports and sports betting. We've got you covered on the Fantasy Sports Radio Network. Download the app. Take us with you. We make it rain in the morning, 6 to 9. Eastern Standard Time. Me, Dane Martinez, and the gang, we've got you covered, letting you know what you missed overnight, what's going on. And then me and Gabe Morency, we've got you for the morning after, 9 a.m. to 12 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. And then we've got live programming all the way up to 11 p.m. Everything centered on making you a more profitable sports investor. Whether it be fantasy, DFS, or sports betting, we've got you covered. The Daily Fantasy Sports Radio Network, FNTSY. Download the app today. Take us with you. Big show tomorrow as Dr. Bob Stahl joins us, as does Joe D'Amico, as does our good friend Tony George of Doc Sports. Loaded once again tomorrow. Hope I'll see you in the morning on the Fantasy Sports Radio Network, but certainly hope we'll meet back here again tomorrow afternoon as we look forward to another exciting, a lot of college basketball tournament games getting ready to kick off. We got some NBA games tomorrow. We've got plenty of opportunities to make you profitable, which is what it's all about. The only thing we ask, like these videos, share these videos, tell your friends, tell your family, trying to spread the word here, guys, trying to inform and try to make us all a little bit profitable one more day at a time. And the way we do that is by spreading the knowledge here. Don't forget, it's not you versus me. It's not this capper versus this capper. It's us versus the books. All right? It's us versus the sports books. And it was so funny. Somebody had posted yesterday about the amount of money that was placed, I believe, in the FanDuel Sportsbook in Jersey on Philadelphia. As soon as they signed Bryce Harper, apparently the amount of money that the sportsbook had come in for Philadelphia to win the World Series was some obnoxious number. And my point was, this is exactly why the books are so damn profitable. This is why they have all the money, is because there's a lot of people who aren't betting numbers. They're betting by emotion. They're betting teams. And rule number one that we have here is that, we are not betting teams. I don't care what the team name is. We're betting numbers. But that's why the sports books are so profitable. So, again, it's not you versus me or different handicappers against each other. It's simply about all of us beating the damn sports books who have more money than they know what to do with. So our job is to try to pull it out, and we're trying to spread that knowledge here on the Joe Raineri Show, try to make us all a little more knowledgeable and a little more profitable in 2019. So it can certainly use your help. Spread the word, like the videos, retweet them, subscribe to our channels, like our pages, tell your friends. Come back tomorrow. Let's do it all over again. Good luck tonight. Make it a profitable Tuesday night. We'll see you again tomorrow. It's the Joe Raineri Show. Good luck, guys.